Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial we are going to create a peekaboo tumbler using some of the glitters from our box with Gracefully Created. We're going to be putting these glitters on a black base. I think it's really going to change the colors and really cause the opals to shine bright under the peekaboo. I'm going to go ahead and get my respirator on because we're going to go straight into putting some epoxy on this tumbler to apply our glitter. So we have a 24-ounce plump from Tipsy Magnolia. I have painted it black. We're going to do a super thin coat of a little extra incorporated epoxy. When I am doing multiple glitters for an ombre, then I really like using epoxy to apply those. It's better than using a tacky glue or any sort of adhesive that's going to dry up quickly on you. Now the Southern Belle glitter full glue, it does work really well. I got black on my hand. It does work really well because it dries super tacky. But this time we're going to use the epoxy. Now after I have coated the entire tumbler, as you can see it's a very thin coat. I'm going to dab my hand all the way around to get rid of any streaking. So instead of letting this sit to let those streaks even out, we can go straight into adding our glitter. Let's see, we'll go ahead and let's do Wild Rose in the middle. We're going to go heavy around the top with our Wild Rose. Oh, nope, this is Marigold. With Marigold. And then tilt our tumbler. Let me move you up a little. There we go. We're going to tilt the tumbler and sprinkle that. Whoa, that was a lot. And sprinkle it so it falls down into the center of the tumbler. That is beautiful on black. Yes. We're going to come back to it here in just a minute. We're going to move into the next color and then we'll go back over it again to make it a little bit brighter. All right, Wild Rose. We're going to go right in the center and go heavy, and then we will tilt it towards the top. Alright, and then we're going to tilt it towards the bottom. I love, love, love opals. Colored opal mixes that do not have solid pieces in them. Of course, the solid pieces are going to show up exactly their color, true to color. But opals, you can see the pink, you can see the orange,
But you also see that rainbow effect on black, and it turns it bright, and it's so beautiful. So beautiful. Okay. And Daffodil is ooh, pretty, pretty. Daffodil is really showing its colors. I had no idea what these were going to look like. I didn't even test it out on a black piece of paper, so this is kind of my first look at these on black, and those are, gosh, they're so pretty. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get pretty heavy with Daffodil, and then we'll go over the next two colors again. I'm going to do this one-handed. I'm missing my stand. There it is. Ta-da! Okay, close this up. Really letting that rip, because we have established our nice ombre, and we really just want this to fill in any gaps that might be there. Goodness gracious. Look at that. Looks like a bunch of little diamonds. Alright, last step before we set this to dry is we're going to roll this up in our piece of paper and flatten our glitter out. We want to be gentle so we don't move that glitter. We want to keep it in place. Also flattening it out, and this just helps eliminate any pieces that are like sticking straight up, and it minimizes the amount of epoxy that you have to put on to seal it, and sanding. helps with a lot. That is absolutely beautiful. All right, I'm gonna sit this to dry, and then we will come back and put 2 coats of epoxy on it, sanding in between those layers so we have a nice and smooth surface to apply our stencil and our fulls.
Have y'all ever had one tumbler? You can be working on multiple at a time and you just have one cup or one project that wants to repel epoxy in the most random areas, and you can epoxy over and over and over and it will repair in different spots. That was this one. I wanted to throw it out the window, but I did not give up. I put at least 3 coats of epoxy on this before it really started filling in the areas that it wanted to repel from. There was nothing that I did different on this one. Has nothing to do with the glitter or my epoxy or the weather. It just happens because I have been working on other cups alongside this one and I had 0 issues with it. So what I did to fix that problem, if you have areas that are repelling, the best thing to do is to let that cup completely dry. So once you notice that it's repelling, let it completely cure. Take a coat of matte Rust-Oleum clear spray paint and do a very light coat over the entire thing, because that will give it some texture in those areas it does not want to stick. Try to epoxy it again. It will not be even that first time that you epoxy. Do a light coat to try to get it to stick in those areas, and then do another coat after that, giving it 3 total coats, and then you go back in and heavily sand it. And why I say 3 coats is because your surface is going to be very uneven. And if your surface is uneven, you want to sand. But you want to make sure that those areas that did not want to hold epoxy the first or second times have at least 2 coats of epoxy in there before you go in with that tough grit sandpaper. So I did 3 coats of epoxy on this to build the thickness up. So when I went in with my 100 grit palm sander, yes, I used an electric sander for this because elbow grease just wasn't going to cut it. I used a palm sander to get this smooth and basically sanded off 1 full layer of epoxy down to the areas that only have those couple coats of coverage. I hope that that makes sense, but that's the way that I work around that, because sometimes it just happens. You know, when you're working on multiple cups, you might have one that just wants to be a constant pesky problem, and that was this. There's nothing that I could have done to prevent it, honestly. I really don't think so. The weather, elements, how you're holding your tongue while you're epoxying your cups, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just have one that just doesn't want to work with you. So I have sanded this down smooth. I used 100 grit until I got everything about, I would say, 95% smooth. And then I went back over with 600 grit to make sure that I got rid of any of those deep lines. We have a few very small spots, but none of them are rough. And it's just a smooth little dimple. So that's not going to show under our vinyl. I was going to use this one because I think the colors match beautifully. But I think if we were doing something like a V-split, something that shows more of this glitter, this would be a good match. But we're not going to have much contrast between the glitter and this one. And I do want to have some contrast and our vinyl really pop. So since we have a darker base, I'm going to go with this since it's really bright and beautiful. And then I've had this decal laying around for 2 years. 2 years, y'all. I just knew at some point I was going to use it, and I think that if we do a brick design with this vinyl over top of this dark base, this is going to tie in so good. I hope it does. I hope it does. I think I got this from Etsy. I will try to find this design and link it down below for y'all. Or at least something very similar to it, but it has all the pretty bright colors, but it also has some muted colors in there as well. It's going to tie into this. And then I have the textured silver metallic TECKWRAPCRAFT vinyl, and behind that, of course, let's put this all together. I'm going to go over to Etsy and download my brick file and get our stencil cut out. I will have the link to the Etsy file down below for y'all. And in my last tutorial, I showed this. I had a couple people say, oh my gosh, I was today years old when I learned that you can drag and drop files into Design Space. So rather than hitting that browse button, I just drag my files over and drop them into Design Space. If I hit the browse, I don't know what it is. It takes me forever to find my files. So probably because I'm not that organized, you know? So I just drag and drop them over. We are going to resize this to the dimensions of our tumbler, okay? Then, so our bricks are not cut off, we're going to duplicate this, line them up perfectly side by side, weld them together, and then we will create a shape and slice that shape. So the bricks at the very end on our right side are going to be complete bricks, and it will appear seamless on our tumbler. And I'll explain that again. Right here, I duplicated the image after I resized it to the correct size. I placed it on the right side, lining everything up because this is a seamless design. I highlighted both of those images and welded them together. Then I'm going to create a shape less than 11.5 by 11.5, just because that is the max size that we can go on our cut board. And I will get rid of all of that excess brick that we don't need since we duplicated it. The only thing that we're concerned about are the bricks right there at the inseam on one side. Once we have our shape where we want it, and have those complete bricks on the right side, I'm going to highlight both of these images and select our slice. Then we're going to delete all of those extra images that we don't need, and then we'll be ready to send this over to our cut screen. Our stencil has been cut. We are going to pull off that didn't work. Okay, yeah, it is working like I wanted it to. Whew, had a moment there. I'm going to save this here at the bottom because I can use that for something. The way that we cut this, we should have full blocks over here that's going to wrap around. So I didn't want to cut our little bricks in half. There we go. Okay. I can pull all of these off that have been cut. This is my go-to transfer tape. I think I have bought a handful of rolls in my entire tumbler making career, if that's what you want to call it. Now, I used a strong tack TECKWRAPCRAFT mat. I really like their mats. You saw that had glitter specks all over it, and it was still really tacky, but I used that. To really hold onto this vinyl. It's a little bit thicker than your regular Tech Wrap vinyl, and I cut it on Vinyl Plus setting. Cut off all of this excess. We're gonna do a pre-release of our vinyl, and to do that, we're gonna take our squeegee tool, press it down as we're pulling back. It will help the vinyl release from the bottom so that we don't have any sticking. Oh, I'm on that groove. So that we don't have any that wants to stick. What the heck, Batman? There. You're saying it's not gonna stick. Well, it's definitely sticking. Okay. This should line up just right. They're bricks that we put together. Let's try to get it to. Right, that's good. And that's good. About to say, if all else fails, we'll just take those last brick off and hand place them. And looks like that's what we're gonna have to do. Right in my knife. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. Why not cut them out one by one? tweak this a little bit, but it'll be fine. You can't always get what you want. Oh my gosh. All of that, and I put the wrong ones down. Dude. Aren't y'all glad that I stopped editing my tutorials? I hope this nonsense is normal. My gosh. This is how we're gonna fix this. Ta-da! That's not bad, but Bam. Can't even tell, can you? Hope not. Make sure all of these press down, because although I said that we were going to do our little final trick with our squeegee and they weren't going to lift up, they definitely lifted up. So and I know there's someone that's going to comment, I can't believe that you covered all of that glitter up. Sometimes you just have to. Sometimes, not all the time. But now you know what that glitter looks like on a dark base, and it's beautiful. And I can't wait to put epoxy on this and really shine it up. Since this has textured vinyl in behind it, we're just going to slap it right on here. And I'm going to put it in this spot that doesn't really have a whole lot of florals going on. Let me stand this up. And when I originally printed this decal out, I used a glitter glue and sealed it in. So this is Tech Wrap printable vinyl, and I sealed it in before I added it to our textured vinyl back there. I'm gonna grab some epoxy and seal all of this in. I'm not loving it. I walked away with it and I'm not loving this decal, and I think that it's because it's overlapping this. So what I'm gonna do is take my craft knife and I'm gonna trim out around this. And hopefully we don't mess this up. But I think that's what it needs. I'm already shaking. Steady hand, so I can keep it nice and even. I'm basically just doing an offset. Let's lift this decal up and then we will put it back after we remove that excess vinyl. Hopefully we can get it lined back up really good. I just need to change. I need to change my business name from Brittany Barnes Boutique to Chaos Crafting. There's a little piece right there. I think that stays. Now the trick is getting this line back up right. That's better. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, time for epoxy.
All right. We're using our favorite, a little extra ink epoxy. We're gonna put 2 final coats on this. So all of our vinyl is nicely sealed in. Look at that glow up. Anytime you're using epoxy, make sure that you do have your respirator on. When you mix part A and part B, no matter what any epoxy company says, it does emit harmful fumes. You want to work in an area that can be ventilated. Look at that sparkle around our decal. That was a good choice cutting that out. You want to work in an area that is well ventilated, closed off from your home. If you're working in your home with your kids, your spouse, your pets, don't use epoxy around your pets. Or if you cannot well ventilate your room, I do have a review on the Pure Breeze FX fume extractor. It is pricey, but you cannot put a price on the health of your family. So to me, it is something that is very much worth the investment. I have one myself. I am fortunate enough to be able to work in a spare room in my house that's actually off of a bonus room. So I can actually close my bonus room and close my craft room, open a window, but in the winter or when we are really moving around in our house in the afternoons, I know that's not very practical to block everybody off from our bonus room. So I will shut the door to my craft room and turn on my fume extractor. And after that runs for about a good hour or two, then I can turn it off and safely open my door. So if y'all want any more details about that, definitely check back on my channel and watch that review. But this one is done. Look at how beautiful that glitter is. I know I was skeptical before, honestly. I was skeptical before we put our epoxy on, but sometimes you just have to wait for that glow up, and this absolutely did. It's gorgeous. All right, that is all for today. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. All of the materials that I have used will be linked down below with some coupon codes for you. We'll see you next time.